Victor, I think we just got called out.
Yeah. Stormy called us out right before the show.
So maybe our first broadcast this morning wasn't as energized as we wanted it to be.
She criticizes us all the
So
time.
she just took us to task.
You got to be in the studio to kind of appreciate the stuff we put up with.
They don't understand the other end of this. The abuse that we take every day that we come in here and do this.
We got a good group here, man. We got a good group.
Lots of folks out there. Who do you see out there? By the way, in the chat, I think a bunch of folks are playing.
Let me see.
Post your favorite bagel. It's National Bagel Fest Day. Victor always busts my chops when we talk about these.
Mr. Marlins said jalapeno. Who is that guy?
Jalapeno.
Mr. Marlins, come on, man.
I kind of like some jalapeno.
Okay, I guess. Onion bagel, Les Fogelman. Onion bagel toasted twice with butter from Levi's.
Now, he's had that a couple times, I'm guessing. What do you think?
New Year's saw. Had to join the chat. Didn't have a good service earlier. By the way, Victor, double or nothing. Let's shake on it.
Who's that?
Tyler Jones.
That's Tyler calling you out.
I'm tired,
You
Tyler
still owe him
Jones.
$5 from when he beat Hassan. I think that was
Double or nothing, Tyler. You're on. Hassan,
I don't know if you want
help
to do
me
that.
out, Hassan.
Hassan was on the earlier broadcast.
All right, so good.
Who else you see out there?
Let me see. We got some cool people. Let me see. Mark McConnell just took off his glasses going into Superman mode.
Tim Kenner,
Screw that.
Sean Archuleta.
Let's do this thing. Let's do this
Let's get after. There's Brandon Blankenship again.
BB himself.
Kevin Tinsley's out there.
Let me see.
Look at all this. Mr. Marlin's iPhone.
Jenny Sclera just looks serious. Jenny, it's okay. Let it go. Let it go. It's okay.
Justin
just let
Newby.
It go. Armando.
Robert Drury.
Got the Rodan thinker thing going on. I got to think about
this. Look at B. Wirt with the shades on in his Explorer, because he's one of them Chairman's Club guys.
I can't see him from my view here.
Look at him.
Corey Howard's looking cool in the car, just leaning back.
Sweet.
Notice he leans to the side, just that right side lean.
John Handa's like in the fog. Something's going on with John. Oh, there he is. He picked his head up. We were just looking at the top of his head.
Jason Watson looks like he should be doing some type of lumber commercial. All right, here's what we're going to do. Get a piece of wood here, slap it there.
Darius Williams, good morning.
Good
West
morning,
Coast
guys.
in the house here, big time.
Jim Kruger, hold that camera still, Jim. Hold that camera still. Yeah.
Jim Kruger did a role play one time. He's got two twin little granddaughters. I don't know how old they are now, but he did a rack close role play with them one time. It was like the coolest thing ever, right?
Oh, we should find that.
I think I gave him a gift card just because of the effort.
We should do that. B. Worth, I see you, man. I see you, B. Worth. I see you.
There's Ben Johns looking all serious. Ben being all serious, yeah.
What is it, man? The first group was kind of cool. Michael Hang, what you doing, man?
Cool. Well, let's get after this thing.
Let's do it.
So, a great story, really, for June. On the this is the residential side. We did our commercial broadcast yesterday, and great numbers there as well. But just to kind of give you an idea on how we did residentially in June, and then obviously wrapping up the first half of the year. In the month of June, residential pest control sales sold at the OC3 were up 14%. That's great news for the folks on the call, because when they sell business at OC3, that generates more pest control customers for these folks to go out, do the whole home inspections, and sell a bunch of business. So that's super cool. Year to date, we're up 9% year to date at the OC3. They're just really knocking the cover off the ball out there. When we talk about we got two little dips we're going to talk about today. And the first one, we've been kind of hammering home on that, are our field pest control sales. We think oftentimes, I think some of our leadership and some of our branch managers lose sight of the fact that 30% of our residential pest control sales are sold outside of the call center, Victor. It's our Orkin Pros, our HSIs on the call, selling pest control services, mosquito services. And that's where we've fallen off, really the last 2 years. In the month of June, we were just 1% above last year.
Okay.
1% above last year. So there's some work. And again, it represents 30%. It's a big chunk of business, representing 30% of our residential pest control sales. And year to date, we're just flat with last year.
Okay.
So we're better than that. So that's one of the little blips that we've got. Okay. Overall, residential pest control sales are up 10% in the month of June, which is a big sales month for us. It's not the biggest one. July and August are a little bit bigger, but that's a lot of customers that have been added that you can go out there and chase and offer those home inspections. Year to date, we're up 7%. So really cool story there. Really great news on the termite side of the business, and we'll start with our termite liquid. The old drill it and fill it. Up 17%, Victor, year over year.
Nice.
In the month of June, just outstanding. We're up 5% year to date in that category. The other little miss that we're having, and we talk about it on every broadcast, I'm going to talk about it till it goes away. If you remember, the last 3 years we've been running almost 15 to 20%, depending on where you're at, increase in termite bait sales. we're struggling this year. It's the only category that we've got a negative. So, and it didn't get any better in June. In the month of June, we were 3% down in our termite bait sales. And year to date, we're 3%. We're 3% behind what we did last year. It was a big topic of conversation this week with Pat. You know, Pat Chernowski had all the division presidents and, you know, his team in town this week into Atlanta to have a meeting. And we really tried to focus and figure that out. And, you know, we talked earlier, we don't really know what's going on.
Okay.
Other than
Do you
maybe
have any hint kind of ideas? Maybe, you know,
Victor, if
inklings?
I did, they might give me a raise.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm kind of worried they're going to throw my tail out of here
Yeah.
if I don't get it fixed.
They won't do that.
But,
They won't do that.
but yeah, it's something to focus on. So make sure you're pitching the bait. And the importance of pitching bait and selling bait is it has such great retention versus the liquid.
Right.
You know, that we talked about it. They see the green things in the ground, so it makes us so much healthier as a company as we add more termite customers.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so get after that. Yeah, the flip side of that is we are just crushing our ancillary service side. You know, just the ancillary service sales, you know, stuff we sell on top of that is just exploded. To give you an example, we're close. We're right about $200 million of total termite sales sold for the first half of the year. You know,
Crazy
I mean, just
numbers.
crazy.
Crazy
You know, and it's up
numbers.
13%, so
Yeah,
it's a great
yeah.
number. Half of that is in the ancillary
That's
the
a
ancillary
mind blower.
bucket,
That's a
right?
mind blower.
You know, the stuff we're doing in attics, the
Yeah.
stuff we're doing in crawl spaces, the stuff we're doing around the outside, the wood repair. A lot of these guys in California are doing half of that. Half of our termite related sales are in that ancillary bucket. And in the month of June, that stuff was up 32%. And year to date, our ancillary sales are up 27%. Just crazy growth.
Yeah.
And again, that's building on a couple of years. One of the cool things that came out of the meeting with the DPs, and a lot of folks from California are on this call, and you know, the leader in sales over last year in ancillary sales so far as a division is the Pacific Commercial Division. So they're starting to grab onto that and take off on it. Now they got some ways to go in dollars compared to the other divisions.
Right.
But they're running like a 40% increase in ancillary sales.
wow.
So yeah, just outstanding. So shout out to the West Coast for pulling that off.
I'll
and,
take credit for that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
You're going to take credit for that?
Yeah, I will. I
there you
will.
go. Sure,
It's
I'm
kind of
sure you
poking
would.
and prodding. It's working.
Mosquito sales, really nice story there. Again, another fast-growing segment for us, up 13%. You know, through the first half of the year, just outstanding. So if you're not pitching mosquito, get your share of that 13% increase and get after it. Our rack purchases, you know, I'm going to tease you a little bit, like in the news, they say, stay tuned. Coming up at 11 o'clock, you're going to watch this news, right? Not that I watch much TV, but stay tuned to the end. We're going to keep you till the end because at the end of this broadcast, we are going to stream and roll all the rack contest winners to include the divisions, the regions, the branches, and then our 40 HSIs are going to get there. So we're going to get them to hang around till the end by teasing them with that.
Nice.
Fair
Do you have a
enough.
name for them? Do you like call them racketeers
Rack
or
stars.
something? Oh.
Rack stars.
Oh, rack stars. Okay.
Rack stars.
I like
Rack
that.
stars. I think that's probably the
sticks,
name.
that sticks.
Yeah, there's different names, but it works.
It works.
Rack sales, you know, $100 million through the first half. Remember that number, $200 million is what we sold in termite. So our market share company-wide is about 50%.
Right.
We've got regions that are going to be these winners that are in the 70s. You know, if your personal rack market share isn't at 75, you're
Right.
cheating yourself out of commissions. I talk about that all the time. So let's get better at that. Rack sales are up 11% year over year,
Good.
and which is just outstanding. So in addition to the great sales performance, we converted it to profit in the month of June, and we had a really strong month profit wise, and we are on profit plan through the year. So it's always cool to roll into a halftime meeting with Pat.
Yeah.
Being on profit plan, so it tends to go a little smoother and a little more comfortable.
As always, yeah.
Than beating us up and say we got to play catch up. So thanks for all that you're doing out there to make that happen. The sales you're making are converting.
I was going to ask you, have you guys looked at, you know, how much market share you might be taking away from the competitors at this point, or do you have any sense of that?
It's such a kind of a cottage industry that nobody
Right.
really shares numbers.
Right.
Like we're even on our earnings call that we had yesterday, we're very
Right.
vague. We don't even break it down into buckets, and everybody else does the same thing.
Okay.
We're very hesitant to share what we're doing in each specific space.
Gotcha.
We tell them we're doing good in ancillary. We're telling them it's kind
Just
of almost
broad
like
brush, yeah.
it's like secret. You know,
I
it's
got
a top secret.
I got you. What's your sense? Are you taking market share, you think?
I believe we are.
If you
I
finger
believe
to the wind type of thing.
certainly commercially we are. We're
Okay.
clocking some of the competitors commercially. Residentially, I think we're getting more than our share.
Okay.
I really do. I really
Okay.
believe that. I believe that this team out there that we have is better than the others.
Okay.
We've got folks knocking on our door always wanting to come over here. And there's certainly some, particularly with our which our biggest competitor, let's not kid each other, is Terminex. We're getting a lot of folks from Terminex knocking on our door because of some of the unrest that's evolving with that whole Rentokil Terminex purchase.
Here's another question, just an interesting question.
You always come up with questions. We never talk about it
We never
before.
talk about it. It's just fascinating. Have you tracked, you probably haven't, but it'd be interesting to track. Have you tracked how well they do when they come from a competitor?
Yeah, I mean, B. Worth is one that came from the competitors.
Okay, so he would be
and there used to be an old mindset.
Yeah.
He's a great example. Used to be an old mindset here where we didn't want him from the competitors.
Right.
But,
because?
Just because we want, that old stodgy mindset. Well, we want to treat them, teach them our way.
Yeah. We want them to bleed red.
Exactly.
That type of thing. I got you.
I'm not going to take somebody from the other guys because we're better than them. But
Gotcha.
we wised up to that since then. A bunch of folks on these trips, and Brian's a great example.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we wouldn't have Brian Worth if we had that mindset.
I hear you.
So that's just outstanding. But in addition to the great performances company-wide, there were 41 people that crossed that 100,000 paid-on barrier, and we should show those folks right now.
Video time. That's a great list, man.
How about that?
That's a good list. That's a good list.
They're the
Tyler
guys that-
Jones back on top.
He's coming for your money.
He's coming. Yeah.
Coming for your money. We were doing some math on Tyler Jones in when we had the DPs together because kind of what he's doing is astonishing. So in the last 2 months, he's getting paid on 350 and 300,000, and we did the simple math of 14% of what he's done in the last 2 months, and we're convinced he's making more money than Pat.
Yep.
And he may be chasing Gary Rollins.
Yeah, but every great manager should want their salespeople to make more.
Yeah,
Am I
but
right?
sometimes they get so jealous of that, which is just crazy.
That's just crazy because they make
bonkers.
more. This is good stuff. I think it's great. I think it's great. My man Hassan's up there again.
Well, the brothers, right? So we got two
bros
brother
are there.
groups there. We got the Corpuz brothers, Hassan and Ray Bryan, and then certainly B. Worth and his brother
What's up
Justin.
with B. Worth? He's in 5th place. He's California's son, I know what that means. He's not working hard enough. That's what it is. Yeah, B. Worth is taking it easy, I guess.
Will you stop already? No, just a great list. I got
It is a
a
great list.
note yesterday from Marlon Alvarado. He sent a note. He's complimenting his region manager,
Yep.
Marcus Offutt. He just sent a note to myself and Sean Murray saying that, man, I love my guy. I love my boss. I love my big boss.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just shot back. I shared a little news with him that he's gonna be on that list at the end. So to kind of give you another teaser.
Oh, there you go.
He's going to qualify for the rack trip for the first time, and just outstanding. But yeah,
Congratulations.
it was really cool to get a note.
Michael
back from him.
Vincent. Cool.
Yeah, Michael. So you talk about guys coming from the other companies. Michael Vincent has been with us now, I think, 6 months, and I think he's at 1.2. He's a green team retread.
Interesting.
Yeah, he just had it and came over to us and hit it hard.
Yeah.
Who else?
Roy Allegato's always on there. Brandon Cummings. I'm just going through the list
Is Roy
real
on the
quick.
broadcast? I didn't see Roy smiling.
Celeste Curley.
She's awesome.
Bowie,
She's awesome.
Maryland.
She's awesome. Celeste is just outstanding.
I don't remember seeing her name on here, so that's great to see her on
She's
there.
on pretty consistently. We had her numbers screwed up for the first couple of months.
Did he?
And
Okay.
she's tracking like crazy again for President's Club. She again will be another one teasing them.
Yeah.
She's another one going to that rack trip
Is she?
in
Is she?
Florida
Okay.
next,
Way to go.
at the
Way to
end
go.
next month. But Yeah, just a solid list. Anthony Falco's a new name to me. Brandon Smith is a new name to me.
Okay.
Nixon in Virginia is a new name. This is a cool story. Sam Barrier down there towards the bottom on our list. Sam Barrier is proof in the pudding that it's never the territory. Sam Barrier now has run Perfect Miles, $100,000 paid on months in 3 different regions. He did it in North Carolina. He did it in Texas. And he's like a nomad, I guess. He just travels the country, right?
He's a gypsy.
He's our gypsy HSI. And he did it last month, his first month in Florida. He did it again.
Nice.
So again, when you think about it, as you look at the list,
3 perfect miles.
3 perfect in 3 different regions.
Who stands out to you who's done the most perfect miles? Does any employee come to mind? Any person?
I'm not going to do that favoritism
No,
stuff.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying, has anybody else done that? They've moved from another region and they've done it multiple times. That was a legitimate question.
Oh, I thought you meant like, has anybody done it a whole bunch of times? Nobody's ever done, what I know, what Sam's done.
Okay.
In 3 different regions.
Nice.
So we're going to leave it at that.
Yep.
Because I can't be talking favorites.
Okay.
I have them. I got 4 kids, right? and I got a favorite.
Okay.
But they'll never know. So,
All right.
So we'll leave it at that.
All right.
What else do you see there?
Good numbers. The OC folks.
Yeah, the OC3 folks, again, there's that gal.
Teresa Mobley.
Mobley.
She will not go away.
You tease her all the time.
She's like a Tyler Jones and a Hassan. They're just always there.
Amen.
It would have been, I would have said Tyler Jones, Hassan, and B. Worth, but he's taking some time off, so that's cool. But anyway, congratulations. By the way, so Teresa Mobley, Juan Felix is always up there also.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude. He's been there a long time. He's bilingual. We get a lot of Spanish speaking folks, and he gets a bunch of those.
Love Joe King, Gary Frano, we see him a lot.
Yeah, Joe King is. I got a note. It's first month on the phones.
What?
Brand new rookie. First month on the phones, throwing up $220,000. That's strong, because it takes a little while to get your game up on the phone, because it comes fast and furious this time.
How big is that list? How many people do we have at
There's 130, 135
Okay.
full-time agents.
Yeah.
But this time of year, we got some folks coming over from customer service to help with the calls too. So
yeah, well done.
Yeah,
Jesse Kazmer in there as well.
Amen.
Well done. Over $200,000.
Yeah, just super cool.
Yeah,
super cool.
Great job.
Victor, we chatted a little bit, and we go back and forth all the time on what we should talk about, and this one kind of settled in my mind, and it really got reinforced with a couple of GroupMe posts I've seen earlier in the week, and it really comes down to creating urgency, and I always talk about this time of year there's the inbound leads for the HSIs or the termite inspectors slow quite a bit. For most of the country, there are some pockets where termites swarm at different times.
Right.
But for the most part, our termite swarms, where they come flying out and do that early radar, that warning, you got termites, that helps us go out and run inbound office leads. Those are gone. Those are gone. So what our folks do today is they primarily chase pest control customers that don't have our termite services, and they run their re-inspections and try to sell them, other services. All this ancillary stuff that we sell, for the most part, is generated off pest control customers and our re-inspections.
Those are great numbers, by the way.
Yeah, so if you think about all of the residential sales being up 10%, what that generates is a lot more places for these folks to go.
Right.
And I think what happens this time of year is that probably 80 to 90% of the proposals that we do are what we Orkin terms are creative, right? They haven't called in. We're generating the appointment by either. For the most part, it's not real dramatic. We're seeing pest control customers, or we're seeing re-inspections. We're not doing anything really crazy. We're not out knocking on doors like we used to. But what happens with those proposals is, I think that, if you figure that, if you're doing 3-4 proposals a day, 80% of them are creative. And where we miss the boat sometimes, I think, is we fail to create the urgency. We'll go up into the house. We'll do the inspection. We'll come down out of the attic. We'll come up out of the crawl space. We'll come in from the outside and say, you got this, you got this, you got this. And I think oftentimes what it reminded me of is the series that you did on Mount Nut, one of the videos. And I shared a video I kind of stole off you, and shared that with you a couple days ago to talk through that. But let's talk a little bit about spending time on urgency, because with these proposals, if 80% of them are creative, I'm convinced that of those 80, 60 to 80% of them never buy from anybody. An inbound lead, if they have termites flying around, they may not buy from us, but they're probably going to buy from somebody.
Right.
I think there's all these proposals that sit out there, and I've got hundreds of them, you know, up in Ohio that I thought would buy that they never bought. And I always attribute that to, I probably didn't create enough urgency because I've uncovered a problem. So lay out the mountain, not the, because Orkin loves acronyms.
Okay,
so lay it on them,
let's do the acronym first. All right, so if you haven't seen the video, I talk about Mount Nut, MTNUT. Customers don't buy for 5 reasons. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, they don't have the need, they don't have the urgency, or finally, there's no trust. But if you think about this setup we're doing here in terms of you're calling, you're getting a meeting, you're going in there, doing an inspection, you're in the attic, you're in the crawl space, they probably have the money through financing. They probably have the time if you find something that needs to be done, right? The trust is there because you've already had the relationship with them for, let's say, 2 or 3 years. So then you go into the attic, in this case, you find the need, then the question becomes, how do you create a sense of urgency without being too salesy? Does that sum it up?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, the money. You know, we can help them. You know, with the REC, we can help them. We can help them afford that and put that in a budget. But again, I think the piece that's always missing is the urgency. And how do we create urgency without, you know, being
a slick salesperson?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. Oh.
You need to do this
because you're rolling in there on the premise that you're going to give them a whole home inspection or check on the work that we're doing, and then all of a sudden you're rolling down out of the attic or you're rolling up out of the crawl or coming in from the outside saying, oh, you got all kinds of problems.
Right.
And I think the approach, there's a couple avenues that we talked about, the best way, or maybe not the best way, but different ways to approach that when you discover a need. So kind of kick it from there.
I think what you mentioned earlier was that it's an unexpected expense.
Yes.
And this is important. It's unexpected, which means obviously not planned for. So how do you bridge the unexpected into, let's say, consideration? In other words, how do you move from need to urgency? Yeah. So let's use the attic space. And I think we should go through it in steps because there's 2 ways to create urgency. One is based on what you found, and then the other one is, we often talk about, is putting an offer together. Yeah. So let's talk about you come out of the attic. So when you come out of the attic, one of the things you should look at is when you're coming out of the attic, you found the problem. What you say and how you say it makes all the difference in the world. In other words, your emotional content of what you're saying, what you're explaining to somebody creates that sense of urgency. Now, I've had people say, Victor, I don't want to come out of there, you know, with my hair on fire, no hair, and screaming and saying, you need to do this. Some people are just matter of fact. In other words, they're very calm. They'll say, look, here's what I found up there, and just walk through them. That creates the first need. Let's just say that's the first step in the need process. Do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, the other thing I would say too is the matter of fact is one approach, and then the empathy is one, oh man.
Yeah.
You gotta see this. You gotta see what I found. You know, and you could show them pictures, or you could do the old FaceTime with your iPhone and your.
I didn't know that until you mentioned that. I never walked through that because I think that's important.
Just you know, if you're going up into an attic, you know, hand a customer your iPad and take your phone with you and FaceTime them and walk them through. You know, if they can't get up there.
Yeah.
You know, a certain amount of folks, if you find a problem, you say, boy, you need to come up and see this.
Yeah.
Or you can just show them if they can't see it.
By the way, how many people actually do that in the chat? Can you put a 1 if you actually Bluetooth your phone to the iPad just to show them that? Put a 1 if you actually do that. I think that's a brilliant strategy. So you're coming out of the attic. So the first part is like the urgency, the empathy, and then also if you have to be matter of fact, here's what I found. Part 2 of that is the before and after picture. I think people undervalue the contrast effect. Here's what's going on. Here's what it should look like. And just seeing that creates that alarm. Right? And the third part, we've talked about this, is that you push them forward down the future. What if you don't do anything now? What could possibly happen? And then you can, if you have a picture, which I'm sure they do, here's what it's going to look like down the road. And that begins to create a natural sense of urgency.
And I think one of the other pieces that, you know, Gary Hubbard does a great job of explaining this is getting them to acknowledge that they have a problem. Because you know, sometimes I think we make proposals and we think it's an issue, but they haven't said it's an issue. So I think you do that by showing them pictures of what's going on up there, or taking them up there. So, well, and you'll if you can get them to say, well, what do I got to do to fix that, or who can I call to fix that?
Right.
That buys in. So that then at that point in time, you know that they've acknowledged the problem, and secondly, they've acknowledged that they got to do something.
Right.
And now you can step into it, because I think sometimes we go up into an attic, they need insulation, we just come down and start talking about insulation, and they haven't even bought in for a second that they need an attic insulation. Right. You got to reach some sort of agreement or some sort of understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, I realize I got the problem. You've shown me that, I get it, and yeah, I know I got to fix it. Now I can step into offering
Right.
up my solution and try.
And
to
it's
help.
interesting because some people will acknowledge, I got a problem.
Yeah.
But sometimes, again, we've got to find a way to nudge them forward. And again, the contrast of fact, here's what's happening, here's what it should look like. People go, here's what it could look like. And then now we get into the offer piece, because if you've done that correctly, you've gotten their attention.
Yep.
It's an unexpected expense.
Yep.
And I think something you mentioned earlier I thought was brilliant, which is lean into that objection.
Yeah.
I understand that this is an unexpected expense.
Yeah, yeah. And again, one of the lines that that Sire's really famous for is just, you can't come across as a high pressure salesperson because you're dealing with one of our customers for the most part. We don't want you going out there and being a knucklehead and screwing this whole thing up so that now the pest control tech takes a cancel because the salesman was too salesy, or all he wanted to do was come out here and sell me something.
Right.
So you never want to pressure the client or the prospect. You never want to pressure that thing. You want to maybe lay the load in on the problem and really kind of focus on laying the load into helping them not procrastinate.
See, I think
that's
big.
the piece that makes the difference, helping them understand that, yeah, they got a problem. Yeah, they've acknowledged it. They know they've got it. They know they got to do something. And now all they're doing is procrastinating, and you got to try to work your way through that. And I use myself as the example. In Ohio, when I was selling, way back when in the dark ages with my stone tablet instead of an iPad, handing out, hammering out proposals out of stone, we were the first ones to come up with insulation. And I needed insulation in my house, and I knew it. It took me 12 years to buy it because I just procrastinated. And I would have paid for it, many times over if I would have put it in early.
Yeah.
But I procrastinated because nobody nudged me. Nobody pushed me from procrastinating.
I love what you said, because you're going to share the video with them, right? There's like
Yeah,
a 10-minute video you did.
I will.
And in that video, you said something interesting. You said, and you're kind of blending two things together. Don't pressure the prospect, pressure the problem, so to speak. But then you said, pressure the procrastination.
Yes.
And I love that, because it's like, I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to say, you can't let this continue because this is not good for your house.
Yeah, exactly.
And be more concerned than the client. And I think customers feel that.
Yeah.
But again, I would lean into it's an unexpected expense. I understand that.
Yeah.
Let's figure out, now we get to the offer. How would you put the offer?
Yeah, and I think you just put it out. And I think some of the conversations you have about the offer is you tell them, look, here's what we got. We know a couple of things that, to be factual, is that this stuff isn't getting any cheaper to fix.
Right.
And if it continues, the repairs are only going to be worse.
Right.
And you're going to, and if we're talking insulation and the savings of that and how to give them, have them save money, every day you don't do this, you're wasting money. So I think you got to figure out ways to spin that and tie that back in. But I think that's
you got to have that pitch, right? That progression pitch.
Yeah.
You've come out of the attic or up from the crawl space, sense of urgency in terms of, listen, again, that empathy.
Yep.
And then second, before and after, if you don't do anything, and now they're ready to somewhat listen to a proposal.
Yeah.
But again, all that has to be like smooth. I think when you say put a spin on it, I'm with you. How do we find that flow?
Yeah.
Again, it's not going to get cheaper, and it's not going to get better.
And have pictures that show if something goes unchecked, and have stories to tell.
Yeah.
I don't want you've come to the conclusion you got a problem, you got to do something. I don't want you to end up like Mr. Antonio down the road. Here's a couple pictures of his house. Again, you kind of, when you're creating urgency, you got to kind of run that fine line of kind of just telling them you got to do it now.
Yeah.
You got to convince them to do that and make it where you're not coming across as that sales closer.
Yeah.
Like the guy that comes next, he knocks on your door and he shows up and he's got blacktop on his jeans and he looks terrible. And he says, "Hey, I just finished up doing the house next door and I got a whole bunch of product left over. I can do your driveway for this great savings because I'm going to waste it." That's just. The alarms go off that here comes the sales guy, right? So you got to be careful. But I think there are times that you can use those kind of things in our game to create that urgency, because if you don't, you're going to get in trouble. Certainly not that one. But think about the ways you can spin stuff. I love the fact of X date or putting expiration dates on your phone's going off.
That was my phone. Sorry.
Putting expiration dates on bids.
Right.
This price is good until now.
Right.
Or when you just working that out. I love the third-party close as well, to where you're sitting with the customer. This is very successful in a lot of our areas, and I don't know that it's an art that's practiced everywhere.
Right.
By just looking at the customer, getting in with them, getting tight. You've got that trust. They're digging you. You get to the point where it's just a little too much for them. You just simply say, "Hey, Victor, this is the best I can do.
Gotcha.
Let me go to bat for you with my boss."
Absolutely.
And let me see if I can get him on the phone now. Pick up the phone and say, "Hey," and explain the scenario. "Hey, I'm sitting here with Victor. They've been customers for 2-3 years. They really need these services. They just need a little bit of help to kind of get them over the edge. If we can get this work done, in the month of August, will you entertain giving them another 10% off?"
Sure.
Again, being very careful that you're not real salesy.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to understand
by the way,
that.
that's the art, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is the art, and
the
it's
art.
the magical art.
Yeah.
It seems
But I think if you tee up the first part, again,
Yeah.
before the offer, the sense of urgency, the contract, you make it visceral. I think that's a good word, because that's the story they tell themselves. And then when you get to the offer, I think it'll become easier and more palatable.
And you're blowing them away already
Yeah.
with your professionalism, right?
Right.
You did everything perfect. You showed up on time. You look great. You did a great presentation on your home suite. You got a beautiful graph. You're demonstrating that you really got game.
Yes.
And you don't come across as salesy. So
agree.
I think that's it. So I was going to say one more thing that I see it all the time on the Tennessee GroupMe where they're thanking Shane Messer, the RSM. Right. Hey Shane, thanks for the third-party close. They make a habit of it there. So think through that. What else on that?
That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's so key this time of year when we're dealing with customers that you roll up to their house and they thought you were just coming to check on the pest control work or do a home inspection. That's that sticker shock or that.
Yeah, the sticker shock is there, but let's remind them of the obvious. Let's remind ourselves of the obvious. You have to care more for their home than they do themselves.
100%. Yeah.
That should be the ethos of every Orkin person.
I was talking with Hub between the broadcasts. You want them to understand that this is what I would expect.
Yeah.
How somebody to treat my mother, my grandmother.
Yeah.
This is, and take that approach and again storytelling as we talk about all the time.
I heard something interesting, and I said it's not the story you tell people; it's the story they tell themselves once you leave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because once you leave, they'll tell themselves a story, and that's why I think the pictures are necessary for that story. You'll tell them the story, but if you can find a way to frame it so it becomes, again, I'll use the word visceral, in their mind they go, okay, if you don't do anything, here's what's going to happen. I'm not trying to scare you. This is a reality. Here's some pictures. And if I have kids, I wouldn't want this.
Amen.
And then they tell themselves a story. And even if you don't close it there, you might get that call back.
Absolutely.
And if we can pick up a couple of percentage points just on that, better storytelling?
I think so. Absolutely. I don't know if I got anything else here other than, let me just check, make sure I got everything that I wanted to chat through. Yeah, I mean, solutions are never going to be more affordable than they are now, right? I mean, today, right? I mean, this stuff isn't getting cheaper, and if it continues, it'll cost you more.
We can type those out also, right? We can send them notes on that, just hit them. And I'm sure it's in the training somewhere also.
And when I send this this is the one we're going to use the broadcast because we were, as Stormy said, we were a little stale on the first one. So this will be the one that'll be recorded and pushed out to you, and I'll tag a couple more pieces into that to try to help support that, creating urgency because it's that time of year. So jumping into housekeeping real quick, the first thing I want you to do, Victor and I, based on popular opinion from the field, have decided to do podcasts with our HSIs, going right to the field. Not managers, not region sales managers, not a knucklehead like me, not a knucklehead like him.
Correct.
We want to hear from the folks that are doing
this. I take offense to that, but go ahead.
I do too. We want to hear from the folks that are doing it. So in the chat, I want you to vote, who do you want to hear from? Who do you want, Victor or myself, to go one-on-one in a podcast with, as we feature these? And we're going to get to a bunch of them. We're going to produce these. We've been talking about it all morning, how we're going to get after these and bring them to you very quickly to help with, quite frankly, some of the turnover that we've got in our new hires.
Right.
So we want to hear from folks. So in the chat, who do you want to hear from? There's Brian Worth right away.
B. Worth.
I want to hear from him too.
Yeah, B. Worth.
He's going to make the list no matter how the votes come in.
I want to personally interview Brian Worth. I want that one. I want that one.
There you go.
Tyler Jones or Sayer. Yep. Those are good.
Oh, that's Brian Worth. There's a top gun looking for some more thoughts. So yeah, post it in the chat. We'll leave that go.
Who do you want to hear from? Because I think it's really important that if we can find out what their best practices are.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to find is that there's probably some commonalities, some overlap, but I bet you each one has maybe one or two things that they're doing differently.
There's no doubt.
And that's what we want to extract. So I got Hassan on here, Alvarado's on here at Marlin. So
You know what amazes me? Even their rack closes. 40 folks. We're gonna show the video here in a minute of the 40 folks that win.
Yeah.
The 40 rack closes are all a little different.
Interesting.
Because I've heard them spin them. I've talked to them about how to use rack.
Yeah.
Everybody does it a little bit different, but everybody finds some success. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
It's something I wanted to do. I got the okay from Pat to invest the money. So we are going to do this.
And we'll be very specific. We're going to kind of like hone in on specific questions we want to ask them so we can extract that piece of knowledge, and then we'll put it in video and podcast form so you can watch it or listen to it.
Absolutely.
And so
I'm like
I won't be Worth though.
I'm super stoked.
Stormy wants to talk to Roy.
There you go.
Heather says, whoever the top female sales in the field is. Who would that be? Who would that be?
Celeste Curley should be
Celeste,
like up top of the list. You know, multiple
Celeste.
President's Club chairman's REC winner. You'll find her on that list when we roll it in a minute. I'm teasing them again.
All right.
Celeste is on that list. Over the news last couple of days, I keep hearing that, you know, we've had like 2 or 3 of the hottest days ever on the planet. So I encourage you to hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Take care of yourself that way. Hydrate the night before. But more importantly, take care of your pros. They are out there absolutely busting their tails this time of year in these crazy temperatures. We're asking them to do stuff, getting on roofs, getting in attics, and just really abusing their bodies. You know, what if you showed up at the job with the cooler full of water or Gatorade, or found out what exactly they wanted to drink and tried to help them that way, taking care of the pro, and you know, occasionally just jumping in the truck with them, and your pest control techs I'm talking about, and just hanging out with them, let them understand. And the other piece that just drives me crazy, I was in a couple branches 2 weeks ago, and both of them had service meetings, Victor, and there wasn't a salesman to be found. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with these salespeople that they don't want to go to the service meeting to sit with the people that are in 8, 10, 12, 14 houses a day, seeing all these problems. Well, we're trying to pick off, you know, 4 or 5 appointments. These guys, if you talk to these Oregon pros and tell them what you're looking for, they'll be your lifeblood.
Give up some of your commission. Recon, right? They're doing all the recon for you. You could just benefit from that. And
go see Mrs. Jones. You know, I was up in her attic. She needs some insulation. You know, think about the value.
By the way,
of
that one, I think we undervalue that, and you get it. Is that 1-2 combination of upselling? Because that's really what it is. It's the first person goes in or just sprinkles seeds. Salesperson comes over the top, cleans it up. So they should be attending.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times the business has been closed to where we've gone out and done one of these creative proposals, and they didn't buy. And you talk to the pro. You say, hey, Victor, I was out of Mrs. Jones. You know, I pitched her this insulation. She really needed it.
Yeah.
You know, push her over the edge, because they're the one that's there all the time.
By the way,
and they'll close that business for you. You close that, man, I'll give you 20% of the commission.
And there's something about throwing a different face at a customer, right? So again, person 1 comes in, salesperson comes over the top. Why not?
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, let's get out of here. We're gonna roll now. Very, very hot off the presses. The winners of the rack trip that are going to be joining a whole bunch of folks in Destin, Florida.
Destin, Florida. Rack stars.
And the shots, the screenshots as the video rolls are the actual hotel.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Is it? All right.
Friggin' awesome. So,
am I invited?
No.
Okay. Well,
no.
Just thought
so
out
be
there.
safe. Take care of yourselves. Hydrate. Take care of your pros. Thank them. Hug them. Do whatever you got to do, because they're busting their hump for you. They're making you money. So here are your rack winners.